100% Metacritic must play game of the year, 10 out of 10 IGN everything. What makes a perfect game? What makes a 10? Well, that's easy. A 9, 7, 4, a 1. Perfection is perspective. That's to say, in order to know what a 10 is truly, you need to know what's not. And that's actually why I decided to make this video. You see, it's no secret every form of media has elitism. Some may be more than others, but gaming is no outlier. My main issue with elitism in gaming right now is how easily swayed gamers at large seem to be by anything that doesn't meet the peak quality threshold. You better have at least an 87% on Metacritic or else you're wasting your time. Of course, I'm talking about the good, the average, the fine, the decent, the dreaded 7. What's funny about the 7 is it's kind of carrying everything in between perfection and the worst games of all time on its back. Because there's no true numbered scale with these things. It's either the best thing ever or the worst thing ever. Anything else is mid by default. Even though 7 factually sits on the positive end of the scale, these games are still treated like they're not equally as important as a 9 or 10. The mediocrity filled in gaming is actually filled with so many titles that I would personally consider must-plays, like State of Decay 2. But why the neglect? Is the thought of exclusively playing only the most critically acclaimed, universally praised titles truly that appealing? Because I can't think of anything more boring. In fact, I can't think of anything more crippling. I limit myself to only playing what is viewed as peak gaming and relegate all else to the not worthy bin. A great game, not worthy. A good game, bin. Let's talk perspective for a second. How can one truly appreciate a 10, a masterpiece, the best of its class, without the contrast or elevation that comes from those experiences beneath it? That's what's holding it up. I'm not advocating for anyone to go out of their way to play bad games, but if you look to titles like Dead Space 3, Gotham Knights, and Shadow of the Tomb Raider as being straight up unworthy experiences or bad games, I'm gonna just assume you've never actually played a bad game before in your entire life. I wasn't super hot on Alien Isolation or Brutal Legend, but these games done enough unique and interesting stuff to at least justify playing. Bugsnax wasn't Game of the Year, far from it, but it was a pretty good time for me all things considered, and I'm glad I played it. I'm glad I had the experience. I'm glad I listened to that one KKB song 1,000 times over. And that's the thing, having experienced games all across this imaginary numbered scale, whether that be Sonic Rider Zero Gravity or Far Cry Classic where enemies shoot you through walls, I truly feel like that gives me a greater appreciation for the games at the top of that golden podium. The 10s, the Metacritic must-plays. The same applies to film and music. A great film is just a film without all the bad and mid ones that make up the bulk of what general film consumption on a casual front is. What's good music without silly songs? This is really at its core a plea to gamers at large who find themselves caught up in this numbers game culture. I honestly couldn't care less what IGN or Metacritic say for any specific game, or what Rotten Tomatoes or Fantano have to say about any film or album for that matter. But I do value perspective, and hearing and seeing a different point of view that I might even disagree with. Like many, I tend to know what I'm probably going to play and what I'm not going to play beforehand, and I use these general consensus metrics as a pulse to things I'm still undecided on. Like, oh, I'm not really in a rush to play Mutants Unleashed, so let's see what's being said about it generally and either speed up or slow down my future game purchase on a priority meter. Do you ever play and love a game prior to checking out a review that's maybe a bit more negative on it, just so you can attempt to see it from a different perspective or even solidify your own? Many of us find specific voices within the community that we latch onto, and we kind of hold their opinion in a slightly higher regard. For me, it's Jake Baldino, the Gameranks guy. If this guy says it's bad and I wasn't super hot on it to begin with, I'm probably going to avoid it, and if he's head over heels, I might have a new game on my Steam wishlist. And that is a combination of both faith in his taste, where ours line up, and knowledge of his extremely broad gaming horizons. And he's not the only one. Happy Console Gamer, Susie the Sphere Hunter, Colin from Last Stand Media, the list goes on. I can often find my own personal priorities being swayed depending on how enthusiastic these lot are on games I'm already interested in, and vice versa. I say all this to say that if a guy who only indulges in the cream of the crop best game ever exclusively holds an opinion in gaming, that's absolutely his right. But that opinion will never hold even a fraction of the weight of a guy who consumes media all across the board, especially someone who can indulge and appreciate a 7, in my view at least. Yes, I recognize nobody wants to waste their time playing a bad game, and that's the thing. 7s aren't bad. In fact, they're really good. They're a lot of fun. Maybe they subscribe to a simpler gameplay philosophy from a more beloved era of gaming. Or maybe they present a more unique and experimental gameplay mechanic that might seem a bit more awkward and clunky for today's gaming connoisseur jerk circles. And whilst I can sink my teeth into and thoroughly enjoy a Gordon Ramsay gourmet burger for 30 quid, I never want to simultaneously exist in a world where I can't also indulge in and equally enjoy a 7 out of 10 McDonald's burger. It scratches a different but necessary itch. Don't just consume good. Go consume some mid. Hell, maybe even consume some bad for once in your life. Maybe then you'll stop throwing the word around so much and these numbers will actually mean something again. Finally, on the topic of mid, this has been the Game Burrow. Thank you so much for 200 subscribers, and thank you for watching. See ya.